challenges, I've introduced many fundamental parts of Scratch, including variables, loops, if-else blocks, expression operators, procedures, lists, and message events. Now the last fundamental component, clones. A clone is a copy of a sprite, like in The Sorcerer's Apprentice with Mickey Mouse, where each piece of the broken broom becomes a complete broom, and then there are many clone brooms, each carrying water. We too must be careful to control creating and using clones. In this challenge, I want some clones to be clouds to float across the sky at different sizes and speeds. First, I want a simple sky background. I'll go to New Backdrop, Outdoors, Hayfield. I'll select an area. I'll make it a little bit bigger. And a little bit there. I'll press Escape. Now I have more space for clouds. I'll get rid of the cat because I want to make my own sprite. I'll paint a new sprite. I want to use the paintbrush. Select a color. I'll draw around the center where the middle of the sprite will be. Put the gray on the bottom. Get a little bit lighter. And a little lighter. I'm finished with this quick little cloud sprite. I'll go to Scripts. Before I make clone copies of the sprite, I need to get the sprite working correctly. Having the XY grid backdrop may help to understand this a little better. I'll go to Backdrops, scroll down at the bottom, XY grid. I'll use it. Back to Scripts. As I move left to right, X gets larger, -240, 0, 240. As I move right to left, X gets smaller, 240, 0, -240. I want the cloud to glide across the stage. I'll use the glide block, help, unglide, glide over time to the XY position. Move moves immediately to the position. Glide takes this time to get there. Close it. Right now, glide would take 1 second to move wherever it is on the stage to the current position. What I'd like to do is to have the cloud glide a little bit to the right each time. To move to the right, I'll need the X position, and I'll need the plus sign. I'll need to add a few steps. I'll try 5. I can click on it a couple times. And again. One more time. The cloud slowly moves across the stage. It's going pretty slowly. I'll change from 1 second to 1/10 of a second. 0.1. Try that. Faster. I want a loop to move the cloud across the stage. I'll go to Control. Repeat won't work. I don't know how many times I'd have to repeat. It'll have to be a repeat until. The cloud will start on the left. I want the cloud to keep gliding until the cloud touches the other edge. It may start touching the edge on the left. It'll know when it's touching the edge on the right when the X value is greater than 0 and it's touching the edge. I'll go to Operators. I'll need an AND. When X is greater than 0, greater than, duplicate position. When the sprite's X location is greater than 0 and sensing is touching, pull down edge. The sprite will keep stepping and gliding until the center of the sprite is greater than 0 and the sprite is touching the edge. I can give it a try. I'll go to Events, get the green flag checked, run it. It's gliding across. X values are getting larger. Stopped when it reached the edge. I'll change the backdrop now. Stage, Backdrops, select Hayfield. Good. Go back to Scripts for the sprite. When I clicked on the green flag, the repeat kept gliding until the X position was greater than 0, so the cloud was on the right side of the stage and it was touching the edge. I want to always start the cloud over on the left. I'll go to Motion. I'll place it. Seems like a good place to start. Go to XY. I'll add that in. This has its own Y position, which is different than the Y position for the glide. Glide should be using the initial Y position. That's easy. I'll get Y position. Now we'll use the sprite's Y position to stay at the same height on the stage. I'll stop the program. Try it now. Put it into the right initial position, and it's nicely gliding across the stage. Program is stopped. That's a good start. Now for the clones. Imagine several clouds floating across the sky, but I have only one sprite. I could try duplicating the sprite, but if I want 5 or 10 clouds, this approach fails. If I could clone a sprite when the program's running, I could have many clouds. And if I make the code more flexible, random number of steps, random starting Y, random size, and several different cloud costumes, I could have a lot of clouds from one sprite without copying code. This could be very powerful. I'll use Scratch's clone capabilities. I'll go to Control, create clone of myself. Go to Block Help. Create clone creates a temporary duplicate sprite of myself. When the sprite is run, the clone will receive the event to initialize from here. I only have to worry about choosing myself here, so there's no problem there. And it's good to know that clones only last while the project is running. When the program is finished, all the clones will disappear from the stage. Close this. Instead of having the cloud move directly from when the green flag is clicked, it'll now happen when the clone is started. The green flag will create the clone, and this handler will be run when the clone is created. This is an extra step to do the same thing, but imagine if I had a loop to create several clones. Then there could be several clouds. Try this to see if this simple framework works. Make sure it's stopped. Run. How interesting. I've got 2 clouds on the screen. And it's finished. 2 clouds. I'll click Stop. 1 cloud disappeared. The clone disappeared from the screen, and this is the sprite. When I clicked on the green flag, the sprite was still visible. It created a clone copy. That clone copy started running from over here, positioned itself across the stage, moved across until it hit the end. That's when I had 2 sprites on the stage. When I clicked on the red stop sign, the clone disappeared. I don't want this sprite to be visible. I'll go to Looks. I'll get Hide. I'll hide sprite 1. That means all the clones will be hidden. They'll need to be shown. First thing the clone will do is make itself visible, go to the position, and repeat moving across the stage until it reaches the edge. I'll try this. Make sure it's stopped. Green flag. The main sprite is gone. The clone is moving across. When it reaches the edge, it'll be finished. Click on the stop. The clone disappears. The main sprite is still hiding. I'd like the clone to disappear by itself. Otherwise, when I have lots of clouds, they'll all start piling up on the right. It's easy to get a clone to disappear. Go to Control. Get Delete this clone. Delete this clone ends the clone that's running. Now I'll see if the clone will delete itself. Make sure it's stopped. Green flag. There goes the cloud across. When it reaches the edge, it should disappear from the stage by itself. The clone's gone. The program is stopped. Back at the script, this is very similar to what I had before without clones. I have an extra step, but it doesn't seem to be really getting me anything. While it's true the stage looks pretty much the same when it runs, now I have a lot more capability within the program. If I put the create clones in a loop, I'll get a forever loop. I can create a lot of clones. Right now, it would probably create too many clones. I'll add a wait in to slow it down. Remember, the clones delete themselves from the stage when they reach the edge, so I can make this work without flooding the stage. If I always do a wait of only 1 second, each cloud will start to appear 1 second apart. I'd like it to vary a little bit. Go to Operators, pick a random number. Try 1 to 3 seconds. I'll move this down. The program will create a clone. It'll wait 1 to 3 seconds, 1, 2, or 3, then create another clone. Each clone will start appearing on the left at a little bit of a different time. I'll try running it now. Stopped. Green flag. Got a couple clouds now. 3 clouds. All right, I've got some clouds going. I'll stop it. All the clouds are at the same height. Would be nice if they started at different height levels. That's easy enough to do. I'll make the sprite visible. Show. This is about as high as I want the cloud to be. I'll go to motion. I can see the Y position is 135. I want to use a random position for the Y. The largest value I want is 135. Smallest value here. I'll get pick random. Duplicate. 23, I'll make it 25 and 135. Now the height of the cloud when the clone is created will vary around the sky. I'll try it. Stop. Run. 1 cloud. There we go. Different heights. Looking a little bit better. I'll stop it. The clouds all have the same size. I like the sizes to change. I'll go to Looks. Set Size. I'd like the size to go duplicate 50% to 100%. Try this. Stop. Start it. Yeah, that's smaller. Some big ones and small ones. Looking good. I'll stop it. What about different clouds? I want different costumes. Go to Costumes. I want to paint a new costume. Click on it. Choose my colors. Start with the middle gray this time. I have the paintbrush still. Try to make some different looking ones. This one will be a little smaller. Get some darker. Put it around there. Get some lighter. A little hard to see, but we'll get the cloud in there. That'll work. I'll create one more. I have costume 1, costume 2, new costume. Go back to the middle gray. Make this one a little longer and flat. A little bit of dark on the bottom for some rain there. And some lighter up on the top. A little bit on the top. I'll even puff it up a little bit. Just to be sure we got something different. 3 costumes now. That looks good. We'll go back to scripts. For sprite 1, I want the clone to switch the costume. Switch costume. And I can use this exact code here. Drop it in. The clone will choose one of the 3 costumes, 1, 2, or 3. It'll go to the left side, pick a random height within the range of 25 and 135, set its size, glide across the stage, delete itself. I'll try it. Stop. Run. Yeah, getting some different clouds now. Looks like a storm's coming in. That's good. I want to make one last change. The clouds glide across the stage at the same speed. That's because they all have the same steps. I want each cloud to have its own value of steps, so it can glide across the stage at its own constant speed. Each cloud will need its own variable for its number of steps to glide. I'll go to my diagram. Initially, I have sprite 1. When the green flag is clicked, creates a clone. It'll keep creating clones at different random times. When the clone is created, clone 1, for example, will begin when I start as a clone, run its code, Once it's finally finished gliding across the stage, it'll reach the end and delete itself. Clone 1 is running at the same time the sprite is running. While Clone 1 is running, Sprite 2 is being created. It begins running, doing the same things that Clone 1 does. It moves along the stage until it's finished. As time goes on, the sprite creates Clone 3, Clone 4. Each one runs independently with overlap of the other clones. Variables that are for this sprite only are unique for each clone. Just as variables that are created for this sprite only are unique to each sprite, they're also unique to each clone. And like sprites, each clone has its own XY position on the stage. They have their own XY position variables, and they can have their own variables. I'll create a variable, mySteps, that'll be for this sprite only. So like each sprite has its own XY position on the stage, each of these sprites will have its own mySteps variable. It's important to understand that creating mySteps variable as for this sprite only includes the clone sprites. Each clone has its own mySteps with its own random value. That will give each cloud its own speed. I'll go to Scratch and create my steps now. I'll go to Data. I'll make a variable. Call it mySteps for this sprite only. Okay. Not going to help to try to see it on the stage. I'll remove it from the stage. I'll need to initialize my steps. I'll pick random, duplicate. Been using 5. I'll have it vary from 3 to about 8. Make it a little bit faster. So now instead of using 5, each sprite should use my steps. Get my steps. When each sprite is created as a clone, it'll pick a random number of steps to go, and it'll always use its own number of steps to move across the stage. I'll start the program, make sure it's stopped, run. Got one cloud, another one. Got different speeds, working nicely. Each clone has its own XY position on the stage. Each clone has its own mySteps to give it its own speed. Some are faster and some are slower. Program's working nicely, I'll stop it. I'm finished with this challenge. It's important that you get experience with clones and get comfortable using them. I encourage you to play with this program. Try making some changes. Try adding another costume or two of additional clouds. Try using change effect to make each cloud look different. Try changing the number of seconds to wait and the number of steps in mySteps to see how crowded or empty the sky can be. But be careful not to drown your stage with more clouds than Mickey Mouse had brooms. But above all, have fun learning about clones with this program.